Welcome in to this evening's lecture. I invite you to get comfortable, turn your phones off or put them on silent. Try and be completely present. Have whatever you need to hand, whether it's a glass of water, some tea, but try to make yourself available to receive this information, to really be able to take it in, not just on the superficial level, but really to open up all the senses to be able to take in this information. In this first series of lectures, which will make up the body of the first module of this work, we're really going through the basic principles of our inner work and what is necessary, the conditions that are necessary to be nourished, created, cultivated internally in order for us to open up the doors of perception, to be able to really see and perceive our true essential nature and to make direct contact with our divine nature and receive information, guidance, and support from there. So today's lecture is dedicated to the practice of meditation, which for many of us, that may seem like a simple topic to be talking about or something that we have many years of experience in. But really there are multiple layers and it's a multifaceted subject and practice. And I remember many years ago, my teacher said to me, you know, many of us, we like to talk about how often we meditate or for how long we have meditated. And he said, in reality, it would be more honest for us to say how long we have been trying to meditate for. Because true meditation is direct communion with God, with spirit, with our divine self. And maybe we've had glimpses of that. Maybe we've had moments where the mind has become spacious and open to receive intuitive insight. But I think for the majority of us, those are fleeting moments. And so it's an important subject to dig into. There are many, many different types of meditation. And I'll be talking about that in today's lecture. So let me just share my screen. Actually, bear with me 1 second. I'm just going to put it in presenter mode. There we go. Okie doke. So hopefully this is all clear here. The quieter you become, the more you can hear. It's Ram Dass, a beloved teacher of recent times, by Pema Chodron, who's a wonderful Buddhist monk and author, many, many wonderful books. Meditation practice isn't about trying to throw ourselves away and become something better. It's about befriending who we are already. And when I read this, befriending who we are already, I understand this to mean who we truly are, our true nature. There is a lot of kind of misconception, I believe, in the world of psychotherapy, traditional psychotherapy, where we are taught to embrace all that we are, all of our shadow, all of our trauma, all of our wounding, all of our conditioning, even though it may be causing us suffering, even though they may be illusory beliefs. And in this body of work, in these teachings and the teachings that I come from, we actually work to remove the things that are separating us from our true self, from our essential nature. And it's not about negating um, or avoiding or not accepting certain wounds and traumas. But it's not about saying, this is who I am. It's not about allowing them to become who we are, to determine who we are forever, but rather to be able to accept that certain things have happened in our lives that have caused dis-ease, mental suffering, emotional instability, wounding, and to be able to see the roots, the seeds, the shadows of that conditioning, and to little by little chip away and remove it from our psyche, to remove the things that are going against our essential and true nature. So there are many kind of pit holes, if you like, on this path, many teachings that we have to filter through. We have to see, does that really feel true? You know, to embrace my anger, embrace my hatred, embrace my rage. Where is that leading me to? We have to question things. And so I ask you to move into this work with curiosity as we go deeper and deeper into the topics that we'll be exploring together. Hermann Hesse, within yourself is a stillness and a sanctuary to which you can retreat at any time and be yourself. And again, Ram Dass, everything in your life is there as a vehicle for your transformation. So, meditation is a pathway to God. This is my invitation to you today, or whatever you choose to, whatever name you choose to place upon that universal creator. A way we can receive direct knowledge from within. It is a way for us to experience our divine nature and access the wisdom of the heart in order to guide our lives, our decisions, and our relationships. When we nourish and fortify this connection within, it becomes a source of infinite wisdom, a refuge, and a space of reconciliation and relief. So, if you want to accelerate change in your life, gain clarity, remove procrastination and doubt, and develop discipline, then meditation is the essential key. And in this body of work, it really is essential. It's essential that we begin to mature our relationship with meditation, that we begin to value it so that it becomes an essential part of our day, like brushing our teeth, having a shower. The meditation really is integrated into our daily practice in some form or another as a form of self-care. And all the great spiritual traditions of this earth teach that meditation is the pathway to awakening and to the removal of suffering. Many of us in this container have had experiences with plant medicine. Many of us have had a transpersonal experience, a psychedelic experience with plant medicine. And the wonderful thing about these plant allies is the way that they catapult us into the transpersonal experience. Excuse me, I'm just getting over a cold. So, with plant medicine, it's almost like we are shoved through the door, through the portal, over the threshold into these other dimensional spaces where the doors of perception are open in our minds. We are able to see things we were unable to see before. We are able to feel things more clearly. There's a direct connection with our intuitive voice, with our guides. The difference with meditation is that we have to bring ourselves there. We carry ourselves there. We are not propelled or pushed or catapulted into those spaces, but rather we, through our daily grind, through our daily commitment, through discipline, through diligence, which we spoke about in our tapas lecture, we begin to chip away at the conditioning of the mind, the conditioning of our emotional field, the conditioning of our, our beliefs. We begin to chip away at those things to remove what is false and see what is true. And it's necessary. It's necessary for us to make these efforts. And they are huge efforts. They are, this is the great work, we could say. This is the hero's journey that Joseph Campbell writes of. It is these daily acts of self-care and discipline and commitment that will bring forth the fruits of this work. Thomas Merton, a 20th century Christian mystic, speaks or says that meditation is not a matter of thinking about enlightenment or imagining it. It is the direct realization of our true nature beyond all thinking, in stillness and silence. Merton connects meditation with self-realization and inner transformation, suggesting that it is through meditation that one directly experiences the divine presence. Another esoteric Christian teacher, Rudolf Steiner, says that in meditation, we take the living substance of thought and bring it into the stillness of the soul. I love this image, the living substance of thought and bringing it into the stillness of the soul. And in this stillness, that's to say, with the perceptive, luminous eyes of the soul and spirit, our thought becomes illuminated from within, bringing us into contact with spiritual worlds. We can see here that his approach to meditation is grounded in quietening the mind so that higher spiritual knowledge can be accessed, leading to a deep understanding of spiritual truths. And then finally, Yogananda, a famous mystic of the East, says that meditation is the science of reuniting the soul with the infinite spirit or God. He emphasizes that the spiritual significance of meditation as a means to transcend the ego and experience divine communion. So here we see again this hinting towards transcending the ego rather than embracing all of our different egos, but to transcend that which is not true. So there are many obstacles on the path, but all of them can be reduced and or eliminated through our meditation practice. If you want to remove distraction and procrastination, release patterns of suffering and tension, live free from worry, shame, and anxiety, restore your relationship with yourself and others, reduce doubt, confusion, and apathy, reconnect with your creativity, increase self-esteem, courage, and confidence. All of these things I've seen not only happen in my own process, but with clients, with hundreds and thousands of people all over the world who are using meditation as a tool to overcome the challenges of life and to remember who they truly are. I wanted to just touch on this briefly because I think it's an important subject to talk about as science catches up with spirituality. Neuroplasticity is a very, there's a lot of science going on now in regards to this, a lot of research. And the research reveals that as we use the brain, it grows and changes thanks to neuroplasticity, meaning its ability to adapt and change when we learn new information. So we are seeing, and science is proving that we can change our thoughts. We can change the way we think. We can change the way we behave. And this is all to do with neuroplasticity. In scientific language, the brain's neuroplasticity functions are called pruning and sprouting, which means exactly that: removing some neural connections, structures, and circuits, and creating new ones. So, when you learn a crucial piece of information about yourself or your life, you create a new design in the three-dimensional embroidery of your grey matter. You then have more raw materials to make your brain work differently. You begin to think about reality and perceive it differently because you see your life from the perspective of a new mind. This is really important proof that we can change. We can literally design a new way of being for ourselves. And so we have to then, this begs the question: what are the thoughts and beliefs that I continue to harbor and feed that are causing me suffering? And what would be the thoughts and new beliefs that would remedy that suffering? What are the thoughts that I have most frequently and intensely? What kind of states am I secretly nurturing in my heart? And when I'm alone, where does my soul turn? To peace or to pain? These are the questions we must ask ourselves. And the information will be very revealing. It will give us an insight into the true nature of our state, our inner state. There's another lovely image we can think about, which is imagining thoughts as seeds. And every time we think of something, we sow that thought in the soil of the mind. And as we all know, eventually seeds produce their fruits. An apple seed produces apples, a nettle seed produces nettles. So, what are the seeds that you are sowing in the garden of your mind and heart? We will not attract what we desire, but what we are. So, don't expect love. Be love. Don't expect joy or wish for joy. Be joy. Don't expect to improve your circumstances without improving your way of being and thinking. And this is the work that we can do in our daily meditation practices. So the mind is like an untamed beast. And the mind, it does get a bit of a bad rap. I want to highlight the fact that the mind is a temple. There are we could say three major temples in the body: the mind, the heart, and the sexual organs. And the heart is, we all have a kind of very loving and tender and romantic vision of the purity of the heart and its goodness, its inherent goodness. But the mind is also a temple. The mind is also can be used and prepared and cultivated to be something truly beautiful, where creativity and imagination and intuition spring forth from this source of this infinite source of divinity. The mind needs to be put to use properly, and unfortunately we have not done that, and so it has become an untamed beast. It has become something that literally tortures us. But that doesn't mean that is what it needs to be all the time, or that's That's what it can only be. If we leave it alone, if we do not nourish it and treat it as a sacred space, then it will invent every kind of story, lie, or justification, and develop tendencies of blaming others, thinking of ourselves as victims or more superior than the other, creating comparison, division. All sorts of stories will spring forth depending on the way that the soil of the mind has been nourished. But when we are able to observe the mind, understand it, and tame it, then we can turn it into a means for our transformation and convert it into a vehicle of spirit. I love this teaching here. We'll go slowly through it so we can really find the humor in it. Between what I think, what I want to say, what I think I say, what I actually say, what you want to hear, what you hear, what you think you understand, what you want to understand, what you understand, there are 9 possibilities of not understanding each other. So we can see how many obstacles there are in, just a simple conversation. Even now, as I'm sharing this information, there will be a multitude of different interpretations, things triggered within you, whether you agree or disagree or feel offended or whatever, there are multiple ways in which I am failing to communicate properly what I want to say, what I think I'm saying, etc., etc. So this work requires a great deal of discernment and humility and spaciousness. Just bringing space to all of this material and allowing it to, little by little, become clear over time. All right. So I would like to invite us now into an 8-step meditation process, which over the years I have refined. I'm going to walk us through it initially. I'm just going to talk us through it and then we will practice it. Now, in the online library that you have, there are multiple different meditations of, up to 20 minutes. Most of them are around 10 minutes. And you'll see the variety, a great variety of different types of meditation. Some are more contemplative. Some are completely focused on the breath. There are others that are focused on a particular feeling or thought, let's say forgiveness, or a meditation dedicated to gratitude. All of these are wonderful practices. All of them are valid. But if I were to give you one practice that was, let's say, going to really get you somewhere, going to really serve you with your inner work, I would say this is the one to go with, practice, and mature internally. The first step is a physical release of tension so that energy can flow. So the body is the container. The body is where we are experiencing life, experiencing all our thoughts, suffering, etc. So there's a huge amount of physical tension that we store, that we accumulate, and that can hinder the flow of energy, mental, energy, clarity, etc. So at the beginning of this meditation, there will be some teaching and some focus on just releasing physical tension. Sounds simple, but really it's essential. Then there'll be some focus on the breath, which is another medicine that we work with in this coaching program. The breath is our ally. It's a great teacher, medicinal, and it will really help to calm the mind and bring it into focus. Third step is observing the mind, training our minds to focus, to not start thinking about the future or the past or what we're having for dinner, but to be here now. Fourth step is beginning to observe and name our mental patterns, our emotions. This is really about becoming literate internally, emotionally literate. It's not just about, sweeping names or placing labels on things such as, oh, well, that's anger or that's envy or, that's procrastination. It's really going into the fine details. Okay, it's not just anger. What kind of anger is it? Oh, it's bitterness. Okay, well, how does that feel? What does that taste like? Where do you feel it in your body? Really beginning to become finely attuned to how these different egos and conditions are causing tension, suffering, etc. Then we're going to go deeper into the origin of the problem. So really to observe the operating system. If there is a tendency towards feeling alone, feeling like you don't belong, what is the root of that? When was the seed planted? And what are the shadows? What shadows does that sense of not belonging, how is that cast out into the rest of your life? How does that condition your behavior? How does that condition your relationships? How does that form a protective wall around your heart? What are the shadows of that root ego? Once we've seen that, we ask for help. We solicit support from our inner being, our God, our spirit, whatever name we wish to place upon that entity, upon that force. And we create a sincere prayer from our hearts. We ask for support. We ask for resolution, resolve, reconciliation. And we make ourselves available to receive the guidance, to see with more clarity, to look for the solution within. And then we give thanks. We give thanks for the opportunity to practice any wisdom or insight that we may have received. And we give thanks for all the blessings in our life. We remind ourselves of all the ways in which we are loved, in which we are innately good and kind. And then we close our practice there. Okay. So we'll take a slight pause. I'll stop this recording and we will start the meditation in a new, fresh recording. I invite you to take a comfortable position, seated on a chair, on your sofa, on the floor, wherever you feel comfortable, but where the spine can be straight. And I'll see you in a minute to begin.